take 1 of 1, no cuts. This video is all about how I fixed my cervical instability and how I did it in a way that nobody else had ever done before. I was a world's first. And I want to make this video uncut. I have got some notes here that I will be reading, and it's very hot here, so I will have a drink from time to time. But I want to explain to you exactly how I came about to resolve my issue, and also explain the process, everything that I tried, and why those things hadn't worked. Now, some people I've shared this to in the past in some cervical instability groups. This issue is also known as cranocervical instability or ligamentous cervical instability. But either way, damage to the fascia in the neck that also can affect the head, the brain, and all sorts of things. There are all sorts of symptoms that can come from this. And this video is just about me sharing my experience, sharing what I've learned, and sharing this innovative approach that I did with a guy called Chong from Hyperarch Fascia Training, and how this all comes together to fill some pieces in the puzzle that were not able to be answered for me by the mainstream. Alright, let's get into it. I'm going to start off with my journey overview. So this all takes place looking back, all the way back into about 2018. I had a concussion, I got a tackle from behind in a soccer game, and I fell on my head, got a concussion. It took me 12 weeks to fix myself from that. It took me 12 weeks for all the symptoms to go away. Now, little did I know that that would have preconditioned me to having a weaker neck. We then flash forward back to August of 2022. I was playing in a soccer game, I'll overlay the clip here, and a ball got hit into my head and whipped my head around. Again, I got another concussion, but I also got a weakened neck. Now, at the time, I hadn't pieced all this together. It took quite a while to understand how this has all come to be. But essentially, the concussion and the weakened neck, the fascia that had been damaged, has incubated quite a major problem that then I've had to figure out how to resolve through various things. Now, I'm going to give a bit of a disclaimer here. I had neurological symptoms that were not caused by the cervical instability, but the cervical instability added to it. And I'll explain exactly how that works throughout this video. But essentially, there were two parts to the problem. Part of it was a concussion issue, so an issue with redox and heteroplasmy. I actually spoke to a neurosurgeon who's very clever and knows a lot about this and helped me understand my condition. I've also done an interview with him, and I've also written a document on everything I've learnt from him. And it also explains how this intersects also with the work I've done with Chong, and how rehabilitating the fascia can also help you rehabilitate the brain too. Now, there are other components, but it all has to come together as one. We are one body. We're not just a neck. We're not just legs. So you have to do everything at the same time. Anyway, so I had this injury, got a weakened neck. Now, I had a lot of symptoms coming from my neck, especially right then at the time. Neck got tight, I had lots of pressure behind my eyes, I had lots of visual symptoms. I'll talk more about these later on down the track, but essentially I had all the classic cervical instability symptoms. Neck tightness, neck pain, discomfort, lots of, let's call them sore spots, I like to call them adhesions, and the fascia wasn't happy. The fascia wasn't healtzy. Now, of course, I also had the concussion element that added to it, but that seemed to resolve over time. Like many people, I actually got better. My issue seemed to have gone 95%, and I actually moved away to another part of Australia, I'm from Australia, to pursue higher level of football. And when I got over there, I had about 2 months where my health felt good, and then I went downhill. Now, I won't say the name of this doctor, but I ended up coming across some stuff from researching my symptoms on YouTube on neck injuries and how it can cause effects throughout the body. And this seemed really good. I started to understand that the neck can actually cause problems throughout the rest of the body, and that you can get neurological symptoms potentially depending on what you've got. Again, disclaimer, I understand everyone's different. Everyone has gotten their cervical instability from different events that have happened, even Lyme disease, I've seen people. So there are a whole lot of things that can happen, but what I really want to focus on is people that have had cervical instability from whiplash injuries, whether that be a car crash or a sporting accident, whatever, and how that this can be resolved. Because there's not much that can actually resolve this, and the things that are suggested that do help haven't got the best track record from what I understand. So anyway, found this doctor on YouTube, began to understand the content, and began to look at neck injuries. Now I was like, okay, first step in the process. I have to understand what fascia is. So then I went down the wormhole of what fascia is, because I understood that it's ligamentous cervical instability. It's instability in the ligaments. And then what I further figured out is that it's not just the ligaments that make up the fascia system. Fascia holds the body together through this concept called tensegrity. So tensegrity, all that really means is tension and integrity. So the integral parts are things like bone and the skeletal system, and then the fascia, which is the tension part, holds the body together. Now when we lose tension in this system, that's when we start to get symptoms. That's when we get the instability. It's the same thing with an ankle injury. Think about it. You get a rolled ankle or a sprained ankle, and then you lose stability. People know this with ACL injuries. You get an ACL, a ligament tear in your knee's unstable now. So it makes sense that we focus on the fascia and not the muscle to rehabilitate this injury. Now, through my research, I also found this guy called Jan Wilk, who is a fascia researcher, and he showed that 86% of injuries occur on the fascia and not on the muscle. So I was like, duh, we may as well be rehabilitating the fascia. So anyway, kept researching, and it seemed like the gold standard for fixing the fascia network, the tensegrity, would be prolotherapy injections. If you didn't want to go down the route of surgery, which I absolutely did not, for me it was avoid surgery at all costs. Plus, I understood from my research that surgery is not guaranteed to fix anything. I mean, nothing's guaranteed to fix everything, but surgery specifically, you're going to have to do rehab after it anyway. So it hasn't actually addressed the cause of the problem. I understood fascia was holding together the skeletal system. This is the basis of cervical instability. If the fascia is bad, we get instability, and the skeletal system gets unstable, there's laxity, then we can get lots of problems like adhesions, like sore spots, like compensation patterns forming when, for example, for me, this shoulder dropped because it had lost tension. So I'm learning about all these things, and if you didn't want to go down the surgery route, then the other option is prolotherapy. Now, prolotherapy is a dextrose-based solution that gets injected, and potentially it's going to tighten the ligaments up. Now, I also saw that there was PRP, but where I'm from, it's a little bit harder to come by, and it was basically doing the same thing, trying to get growth factors to the area to resolve the damage. Now, that's all well and good, but there's a lot of variables that that's not controlling for, and one of the variables that's not controlling for is addressing the structure of the fascia. So it's not actually going to attend to the connections. Fascia is making connections across multiple bones, joints, muscles. It's holding the body together. If you didn't know, it's considered the endless web. It's one piece. It's there holding the whole body together through tension. So as I said before, if tension's affected in one part of the body, it can then be affected in other parts of the body too. So I understood, actually I didn't understand, because I ended up getting the prolotherapy, but I understand now that the prolotherapy proved to have some short-term benefit because it might have been healing some of the damaged fascia, but it wasn't creating the connections that were needed for stability. It wasn't actually integrating those connections back into the network. We call it the extracellular matrix because it's processing information through nerves, 6 to 10 times more nerves than muscle, but it's also holding the body together. There's structural elements, there's neurological elements. It's a pretty complex organ, because it is an organ, it's the biggest organ in the body. What I'm going to do here, this is a good point in this video to talk about this. Coach Chong has a fascia crash course on his YouTube channel, and it talks all about fascia, what it is, how it relates to performance, which is actually relevant to injuries, how it relates to injuries, and then how hyperarch fascia training, so the thing that I did to resolve my cervical instability, actually works, how it's all relevant. I'll address some of these points later on in this video, but essentially go watch this video now or after you watch mine, and then you'll gain a really good understanding of fascia, and all this will start to make sense, because I'm just throwing terminology at you. I'm trying to give some brief descriptions, but hey, there's a lot to take in. You're probably going to have to watch this video more than once, and you're probably going to have to get your notepad and pen out. 1 second, water break. Okay, so I moved back home from Melbourne, health declining, and then I found this doctor who actually, he was an occupational therapist, and he was actually in charge of sitting on trials, court cases, of people that had been in car accidents and gotten whiplash injuries, so again, cervical instability, and he was going into the courtroom and explaining that the injury in the neck can have effects throughout the rest of the body, even if things seem fine. So this was his job. He understood this very well. Now, when I was in Melbourne, I actually got a ton of scans, and it didn't really show up anything. I didn't have the jugular vein compression, that was confirmed. I had MRIs down my neck and my brain, and nothing abnormal was found. The X-ray showed that my my curve had been lost quite significantly, but the doctors were just saying, okay, well, because of people's lifestyles these days, being on phones, being hunched over, people are losing their curve anyway. But I said, okay, we've got no control before, so we can't determine how much curve has been lost. I now know through hindsight, my curve is a lot better now, and it just feels completely different. Also, I don't want to get an after X-ray because I've had a concussion. I don't want to have more. I don't want to have radiation, too much radiation around my brain. It's not good. It's damaging. So, potentially damaging. I've got to be careful with what I say. Also, none of this is medical advice. I'm just sharing with you my experience, and perhaps you can do your own research, and then perhaps you can come to the same conclusion as me, but I'm just sharing with you what I've learned. Alright, so, this occupational therapist, I walked into his office, he examined me, he talked to me about my symptoms, my condition, how everything had happened, and he said, yep, you got cervical instability. So I'm like, great, write me a letter, so now I've got proof. So I've got that. And I had the Prolo, and the Prolo helped in the short term. I had 6 rounds of Prolo over 12 weeks. So I had injections every second week, and he was putting the needle in maybe 15 or 20 times, and he was doing 3 or 4 injections in each site. So effectively hundreds of injections all the way down my spine, even in my shoulder, because I told you the shoulder had dropped. And I found some short-term benefit. It kind of stopped me from going backwards, but it wasn't fixing the issue. And I dove right back into the fascia research. I borrowed the fascia textbook off one of my mentors, who's a bodywork guy. I say that because it's hard to quantify what he does, but he knows a lot about the fascia. In fact, when I'd first gotten my neck injury, he was working a lot on my SCM, the sternocleidoid mastoid. I've probably butchered that, but it's this muscle that comes to here that people often get tight, because it takes the load of the other neck muscles, the other areas of the neck that have been offloaded, that are then not doing their job, not holding the body together. So tensegrity, damage back here or wherever, and then these muscles for me were overloading. And funnily enough, when I was having massage, I was getting pressure relief behind my eyes. When I'd get dry needling, acupuncture, I'd have pressure relief behind my eyes. This is something else that I tried, and I've got written down here to do videos in the future on each of the things that I tried, because there was quite a few things, and why they didn't work. I also tried mainstream rehab, and that didn't work either. But I'll do individual videos on those, explaining why they didn't work, and then on the flip side, why Hyperarch fascia training did work, instead of each of those things. Anyway, so I had these prolotherapy injections and didn't fix the issue. So then I went back into the research, and I was reading the fascia textbook, and I understood that, okay, this is not addressing the connections across the multiple joints. It's not addressing the connections throughout the entire body, because it wasn't just my neck. My head had adhesions, which means that the fascia was become slack, and then bits and pieces had stuck together. So then there were sore spots there. There were sore spots all over my back. My shoulder had dropped. I had instability in that left shoulder. I had adhesions and pain throughout my entire body. Eventually, when I went on to do Coach Chong's program, part of it is making sure that we eliminate the adhesions, so then the fascia can create the proper connections and your body can be out of stress, because all these adhesions is creating low levels of pain, it's creating cortisol, it's creating stress, and then it's just kind of a big whirlwind of badness. I can't think of good words for that. Essentially, my whole body was covered in like 8s and 9s, like of how sore and tender. And just to go on a bit of a sidetrack, I'd had lots of injuries to my left ankle, and again, understanding that fascia is one tissue, considered the endless web, I understood that that actually predisposes me, even after the neck injuries years ago, to also have worse neck injury. Because what I began to understand is that every person could have the same injury as you, or same injury as me, and then get different outcomes based on their differences in their body, based on their lifetime experiences, and also the environment that they're in, and also the training that they've done. So this topic becomes very nuanced. Anyway, essentially the fascia throughout my entire body was incredibly disorganized and incredibly weak, and I understood that the prolotherapy injections were not going to address this, and I'd have to create the connections. Now, I'd been watching Coach Chong's content for a while, and I had been looking at it to resolve my chronic ankle injuries that had been going on, and I hadn't yet considered that, hey, this might be an option for me to resolve my neck issue. So again, straight back into the research, understanding what fascia is. And then I researched Coach Chong's work and how it's different to just the fascia work that you might see Instagram people doing, or your local person might do, how it's different to massage. And what I realized was that he's not created, he's discovered this mechanism called the Hyperarch mechanism. And essentially what that is it can explain elite athleticism in athletes, but it also can explain injuries too. And I'll tell you how that works a little bit, because that's on my list of things to talk about. So, the Hyperarch mechanism is a mechanism in the foot that utilizes the properties of fascia and the behaviors of fascia to remodel the fascia throughout the body. Coach Chong's work identified that the differences in elite athletes compared to average ones was in the fascia. Hello everyone, I forgot to mention that the Hyperarch mechanism is creating fascial connections from the feet to the glutes and core. Now, why the glutes, you might be asking? Well, the glutes are made up of 80 to 85% fascial inserts, which is quite significant compared to the muscular component. Now, the Hyperarch mechanism, remodeling the fascia from the feet to the glutes and core, also has a very similar mechanism that happens in the upper body too, where we are engaging the hands in a specific way to remodel the fascia and create connections from the hands to the lats, meaning latissimus dorsi muscle, and also to the core. This is how we are creating connections throughout the body through myofascial chains to be able to remodel the damage and actually get access to the neck. It's necessary to remodel the fascia throughout the entire body so that we can create the correct connections, because as you'll hear me talk about a lot, is that fascia is one tissue with no beginning and end and holds the body together through tension. So all elements must be addressed, and to be able to access the neck, we must go from the hands to the lats and core, but also establish a base in the lower half of the body too. So we can actually use these ways to improve athleticism, to remodel the body, to then get rid of our injuries. We are reverse engineering this process that these athletes have gone through naturally throughout their development, which is pretty cool. So the Hyperarch mechanism in the foot, which is also in the hands, allowing the fascia to remodel, is unique only to Coach Chong's work. But that's not it. That's not the only thing unique to Coach Chong's work. In fact, let me go through the things that are unique to Coach Chong's work in a bit. I'll talk on this first, and then we can come back to that. Jumping around a little bit, but hopefully you can follow. So then I started to look at all the testimonials he was getting, and people saying that they tried everything, which is like me. I've been to 40 doctors, people saying they've been to tens of doctors, had all these scans, I'd had all these scans, they'd tried every different therapy under the sun, I'd tried every different therapy under the sun, and they hadn't had results. And then what I started to understand is that when they do human anatomy dissection, water break, so the doctors that are trained and currently in practice potentially have not learnt about fascia because the fascia was discarded. And I'm about to explain to you how significant the fascia really is and its behaviours and properties, and how you can remodel it to then resolve injuries like cervical instability. But so in that, like, that's huge. But just simply how important fascia is throughout the body, I already told you it's holding the whole skeletal system together. But not only that, like, there is so much of it in the body. It's the most abundant protein in the body. There is more fascia, collagen, because fascia is made up of collagen. That's the most abundant protein in the body. So you have this very significant thing that's been ignored through human anatomy dissection. It was cut away and discarded to study the muscle because they thought it was just a filler material, just a pack material. So anywhere from 18 to 22 kilos of fascia is inside of you right now. And that got discarded through anatomy dissection. So this is why we have these missing pieces. This is why we have things that are missing and people that are falling through the cracks and unable to resolve their issues. So I was like, wow, like that alone is impressive. And then I understood how significant fascia is, and I was like, okay, this makes sense. I need to work with this guy. So before I get into Coach Chong's work and how it's different to regular PT or other people that you see doing fascia work, because it is different, and how my research came for me to understand that Coach Chong could fix my issue, I want to first rationalize craniocervical instability or cervical instability, ligamentous cervical instability, whatever you want to call it, whiplash injuries, neck injuries, or any injury really. I want to rationalize my thought process over this whole sort of 2-year period from when I got my most recent neck injury to when I started working with Coach Chong, which was about 15 months. It's nearly been 2 years since my most recent neck injury. Anyway, I want to rationalize what cervical instability is. So, you have cervical instability, your neck is unstable, or your head is unstable. So then you have to look at, okay, what is actually unstable? Okay, the fascia is damaged. Cool. All right, we've got fascia that is damaged. That's creating the spine, the cervical spine, the head, to be unstable. So what's holding this system together? The fascia. The fascia's been damaged. It's not able to hold the system together. Okay, so what do we have to do? We have to remodel the fascia, allow it to create connections across multiple bones, joints, ligaments, tendons, muscles, everything. Create these connections, integrate all of these systems and all of these different tissues together to create one body that is whole, that is complete, and that is able to live without pain, without injury. Because when the fascia gets disorganized, when it gets damaged, it gets disorganized, and then we get adhesions, and then we can get symptoms from those adhesions. We get the sore spots. This is why you're seeing some short-term relief from acupuncture and dry needling and massage, maybe red light therapy, but it's not fixing the issue. We need to create these connections to actually fix and overcome the issue. These can be great tools in that process, but it's not probably, because some people, maybe it has, it's not probably going to fix your issue. If you've tried it and it hasn't worked, this is probably why. So then I was like, okay, how do I create these connections? So then I went to mainstream physio, because I'm going to be honest, I didn't have the money for Chong's program. We're sitting here, it's one take, I'm being very honest, very transparent. I didn't have the money for Coach Chong's program. So then I was like, okay, I'm going to try mainstream PT because it's pretty cheap. In Australia, we have a good healthcare system. It basically wasn't going to cost much. Started doing it, it was flaring me up. It was making my symptoms worse. And I was like, okay, this is no good. So I did it for a couple of weeks, and essentially I had a chat to this physio, and I said, here's my research, what do you think? And he didn't really understand it. He didn't really know about it. So I was like, okay, he's missing some pieces that I've now got. So now I need to go to the person who's fixing people that have gone to everyone and haven't been able to fix their injury. They're going to Chong and they're resolving their issue. So I'm like, alright, I need to pitch it to him. So I made a document and I documented my whole journey. Hopefully I still have it somewhere. Maybe I can show it at some point. I documented my whole journey, all my symptoms, what I'd learnt. And I went, okay, I sent this to Chong. I was like, bang, I think you can fix my issue. I think here's why. I can see that you've not rehabilitated a neck before, but you've rehabilitated fascia in all other parts of the body, even the arachnoid fascia. So, in case you don't know, people that have C-sections, that have epidurals, that's a needle that goes down to the spine, that can create an adhesion at the spine, like in the deepest part of your body, that can create massive effects throughout the body. And he'd had successful case studies where he has gotten rid of people's arachnoiditis, or arachnoid pain. I think it's arachnoiditis, that's what it's called. So I was like, wow, like he can attend to all levels of fascia throughout the entire body. I'm just going to move around a bit because I don't like sitting still. Oh, that's better. I should have probably done this video standing up. But anyway, so he'd remodeled all these people's fascia, he's gotten rid of all their problems, I've tried everything, blah, 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 he's created the connections. I put all these pieces together, I sent him the document, I said, bang, I think you can do this. So I got an assessment with him, which was actually the second assessment, because I had an assessment a little while ago, a couple months ago, to try and see if I could get him to fix my ankle injuries in the meantime, but it was a bit of money, I couldn't really justify it. But now it was becoming urgent. My condition of my health was rapidly in decline. There was all sorts of things that were going on that were to do neurologically and physically. And as I said, I now understand that they're both connected. You have to attend to both. But I just needed to start doing the thing that I knew was going to help. I needed to start. It was bad. Like I was becoming pretty much non-functional. I wasn't able to do a whole lot. And I'm sure a lot of you can probably relate to this. It's pretty awful. And yeah, it's pretty bad. So I was becoming pretty much non-functional. Lots of neurological symptoms, lots of visual symptoms, lots of physical symptoms, and I don't know where I would have been would be now if I hadn't done this sort of 12 months ago, or not even 12 months ago. It's been like 8 months. Anyway, had this second assessment with Chong. We went through it. He's like, "Yep, I think I can fix your issue," and I said, "Fantastic, let's do it." Didn't have the money. Long story short, because I've made some content. I've got an Instagram account where I make content on my story and educating people on fascia and helping them understand Coach Chong's work. And I'd made a video on how to get the money together if you don't have it, because I didn't have the money. My parents didn't have the money. I hadn't been able to work. So I've analysed 4 ways that I could have gotten the money together. I'll briefly go through them now. One of them is relying on family. That's the route that I took. And having family get together, get around you, showing them I had to show the person that helped me out. I gave them the evidence. I showed them all the research. I showed what I'd come up with and how this was going to help. And they were like, "Yep, I've got the money. I'll give it to you to borrow." And I'm pretty honest with that because I understand it's a lot of money. It is a lot of money. But for me, it was putting a price on getting my health back. It was a no-brainer. Like I tried everything. It hasn't worked. I've got one option sitting in front of me that's proved to work for other people. Proved to work from all my research. We're going to do it because otherwise I'm going to lose the ability to live, essentially. So that's one way. One of the other ways, and I understand we're jumping around a bit here, but this is just how I'm thinking about it as it comes to me. One of the other ways is reaching out to businesses and asking them to sponsor you. I know people that have done this in the past before that have had serious health injuries. It's good PR for them. Maybe they want to make a video on it. Maybe you can advertise them a little bit. Maybe they just want to keep it on the down low and they don't want to share it because they're happy to help you, but they don't want lots of people coming to them for money. So there's another option. Businesses, they've already got money. It could be a tax write-off. Who knows? And then the third thing is I was talking with my club president at the club that I played for but in Tasmania, Australia, which is where I'm from. My boyhood club, I played there for 12 or 13 years. And I was pretty close to him. We had a good relationship, and he said that we could run a fundraiser, and he could endorse this fundraiser. He's a businessman, and he could endorse this and get together a bunch of people and get the funds together. Now, I decided not to choose that path because I had the other option for me. And then the fourth option I came up with, is maybe finding someone that has an issue themselves that hasn't found a solution for it, or they have a kid that has an issue that haven't found a solution for. They're desperate, they've got the funds, they just want to find the answer, and then presenting them with this solution and saying, "Hey, can you help me out too, please?" So they were my four options. Anyway, so I got into the program. Long story short, it's worked. I've got testimonials on Chong's YouTube channel. One video is me showing my my progression throughout the 12 weeks. I was filming updates because I wanted to document this journey. And then the other video is the interview that I did with him, explaining with him my process and the work I did with him, and it's a testimonial showing that, hey, I've actually achieved this. So, long story short, massive improvement over 12 weeks. But as I'm sure you'll understand, the longer an issue's gone on for, especially if you've had events happen years and years ago, the longer it takes to rehabilitate. So, of course, I'm going to keep doing the work. It doesn't make sense to have something that's worked or working and not continue to do the work. My pain's all gone. I've got a list of symptoms that I had and a list of symptoms that I don't have anymore. Perhaps I'll put it up here. But essentially, all the physical symptoms went. And I'm just looking at my notes here because there's something I want to talk about, but perhaps I'll talk about it in a sec. And so I fixed my issue. My issue's fixed. I don't have cervical instability anymore. My body, the fascia, has remodeled, and the adhesions went from like an 8 or a 9 out of 10 discomfort pain down to a 1 or a 2 within the 12 weeks. Then I've kept doing the work, and it's kept improving, and then those adhesions potentially can turn to knots. So then there's bumpy bits that are disorganized fascia, but it's not painful anymore. And then it takes a while for those to remodel. So it can be a long process. It can take quite a while. But before, I was in a neck brace after having prolotherapy, and now I'm here on holiday at the moment in Indonesia, hence why it's so hot and why I need water. And I'm driving around with a big motorbike helmet on that has a visor that's catching the wind, and it's not bothering my neck. And so that's pretty amazing. Like, I'm able to do everything. I've got my life back. It's pretty unbelievable. Now, as far as the neurological symptoms are concerned, there was some that was attached to the cervical instability directly. There was some that were attached to the cervical instability indirectly. So the ones that were directly attached to the cervical instability have gone. Specifically, I would wake up in the morning and I would have brain fog. It would feel like my brain has just frozen over overnight, and it would take like an hour to warm up my body and in turn warm up my brain. And that's because of all the adhesions, the disorganized fascia, and things are just, like, nerves are just not happy, the body's not recovering overnight with sleep. So after 4 or 5 weeks of the program, and I've got this in one of the videos in the 12-week journey, I was waking up, I wasn't having brain fog. I was like, wow, like, this is huge, like, this is massive, because I'd been struggling to wake up and actually start my day. Water break. I don't know how long we've gone for. We're going to go for how long's necessary, and I'm not going to stop talking. Okay, so I fixed my issue, long story short. But as I said, some of the neurological stuff that was attached to the cervical instability, which I'm about to talk about right now, things like visual symptoms, things like memory, attached to the cervical instability, but also has other elements that need addressing. I just want to come on here and quantify exactly what I mean when I'm talking about the neurological, specifically the visual symptoms that I was having. So for me, it was visual snow, so the flickering lights. It was also light sensitivity, and my visual aperture, what was actually in focus, shrunk massively. Massively. It was like looking through a straw. Now, this is linked to the cervical instability, but for me personally, a large portion of this was to do with photoreceptors in the eye, photoreceptors in the retina, and how that had been damaged through the head injury that I had. Again, this was magnified by the cervical instability, and throughout this video, I talk more about this and how this comes about. Specifically, in a couple of minutes, you'll hear me talk about piezoelectricity. So I'm not denying that if you're having visual symptoms or you're having neurological symptoms, that this is not coming from the neck. Just for me, it was a bit different. Fascia has 6 to 10 times more nerve endings than muscle does. So it's no doubt that if the fascia is not healthy, you may be getting visual or neurological symptoms from that. Now, there were definitely neurological symptoms coming directly from the cervical instability, but specifically, those 3 visual symptoms were not coming from that. However, it was all part of the issue, and I would not have been able to resolve this without actually attending to the fascia. So it's connected, but it's not the underlying root cause. The piezoelectricity section talks about this in more detail. So I kind of talked about this at the start of the video, but essentially I was doing a lot of research from a guy who's a neurosurgeon and got to understand how the fascia and head injuries can actually magnify each other when you have incubated them in this environment, especially when your personal environment is not good. So I actually got the opportunity to do a podcast and discuss with this person this topic, and which was amazing. But what I've done is I've written up a document. So again, this is completely up to you whether you believe in this stuff or not, whether you want to investigate this stuff or not, whether this is for you or not, whether you agree with it. I'm just putting all the information out there because I want people to have access to this information. I want to streamline this process for people because, hey, this video might end up being an hour, but this has taken years to research and years to put together. So why not put it all together for free and just have it out there? So all my research on the concussion stuff and how the brain and the eyes work, specifically the eyes, because most of my symptoms were to do with visually, my eyes, the retina specifically, and how that relates to the fascia injury, it's all in that document. I've written the document up, and it talks about the protocols that I've used. Again, none of it's medical advice, it's just what I've done based on my research and how I'm resolving my issue, and how my visual symptoms have gone from terrible, absolutely terrible, like losing my vision and losing my memory, to now resolving that, and my vision is like 1,000,000 times better than it was. Still a little bit to go, as I said, it takes a little while, but yeah, I've explained that in the document and how this relates to the fascia. So just to clarify, the document that I'm talking about here is just a list of my notes compiled after talking to this neurosurgeon and after doing my research on some of his work, and what I've put together for how I have been able to massively improve my vision, and also how I've come to understand how the fascia injuries are exacerbating TBIs or concussions, and vice versa. It goes both ways. So if you'd like to have a look at this, if you'd like to talk to me about this a bit more, you can send me a message on Instagram or you can send me an email, and I'm more than happy to have a chat and share this too stuff. Okay, so fix the issue. Eyes are still coming along a little bit later, but that's okay because the cervical instability issue is resolved. Why is Coach Chong's work different to mainstream PT? I did mainstream PT, and I did a lot of research, as you now know, and I understand why it's different. So, Coach Chong's work's different for a number of reasons. I've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I've got like 8 different things written down to talk about. This might take a while. Drink break. Myofibroblasts. So, fascia's made up of many things, but one of the fascia cells is called fibroblast. It's a fibroblast cell. Just think of it as a fascia cell. Coach Chong's work directly, through his understanding, his knowledge, his Hyperarch fascia training, specifically rehabilitates the body And one of the ways it does this is by turning fibroblast cells into myofibroblast cells. So essentially what you've got is you have this fascia cell that then over a period of time, over a 12-week period, you can turn this into a myofibroblast cell. So a fascia cell that's twice as strong. It has twice the capacity for healing. It has twice the anti-inflammatory effects. It has twice the ability, it has twice the strength. So you're turning a fascia cell into a fascia cell that has twice the strength. Coach Chong has had results with people with many different issues. One of them is EDS. I believe that this is one of the ways that he can actually help people with EDS. There are testimonials on this on his YouTube channel, if this affects you, because I understand some people that have cervical instability is caused by EDS, so this is something to consider. So his work, from my understanding, is the only work that can turn with the right sequence, with the right programming, turn fibroblast cells to myofibroblast cells. It's a very specific process, unique only to his work. This is a huge component as why he's getting results that mainstream PTs aren't getting, because they're not considering the fascia. As I said, they have learnt the anatomy of the human body based on the fascia being discarded during dissection. They've studied the muscles, but perhaps they don't understand that the fascia wraps around every single muscle cell, every single muscle fibril, every single muscle bundle, every body part. It's integrating, it's penetrating throughout the whole body in a 3D web, connected as one piece, unless you tear it. And so the PTs, potentially physical therapists, don't understand this. So this is something that's unique to Chong's work. Alright, piezoelectricity. This is where I want to talk about neurological symptoms. So piezoelectricity is essentially the fascia is carrying energy throughout the body. This is the most simplified way of putting it. The fascia is distributing the energy throughout the body. And it does this through piezoelectricity. So fascia is made up of collagen, collagen's made up of carbon, carbon's a crystal, crystals compressed, this is my understanding of it, create piezoelectricity. So when this system is damaged, you essentially have less energy throughout the body to do things like heal, like resolve issues, rehabilitate cells. So piezoelectricity is also used for athletic performance as well. But as I said, a lot of these things intersect. So when you have a fascia injury, you have decreased piezoelectricity. Same thing when you have a brain injury, you have decreased energy in your body. So we need to increase this energy. So Hyperarch fascia training, the work that I did with Coach Chong, it's a one-on-one program. Hyperarch fascia training increases the piezoelectricity directly in real time through the exercises that are done, because it's specifically targeting the fascia. Yes, you can specifically target the fascia if you understand how, if you understand all of these things. So the piezoelectricity is then giving energy to the cells to recover and rehabilitate and repair and regenerate. So directly in real time this is happening. Now, when I was doing the HFT work, especially early on, I would feel pretty terrible before the session. I would do the session, and during the session I would feel a relief in symptoms, like all of a sudden I've got all this energy, my body has improved, I have got energy to do things, I feel amazing, and the pressure behind my eyes would go, and I just feel like, wow, like this is unreal. And then after the session I would feel like this as well. And then the next day I might wake up and wouldn't feel so good, and then I'd repeat the process, and then over time I'm just feeling better and better. But essentially the piezoelectricity kind of runs off itself. If we can optimize the fascia network, if we can optimize the fascia system, then the piezoelectricity can just create more and more to then be able to heal the body better and better and better. As I said, it's distributing energy throughout the body, energy from many different sources. Some of this is coming from the mitochondria. So the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell, and the fascia distributes the energy from the mitochondria throughout the body for healing, for life, for just the ability to do things. So piezoelectricity is super important, especially when you pair it with all of these other things. And also, if you have a brain injury, if you have an eye injury, because eyes are part of the brain, if you have retinal photoreceptor damage like myself, and you're rehabilitating these things, if your fascia system isn't right, and this is how this intersects, so I want to talk about the neurological symptoms and Hyperarch fascia training. If your fascia system is not right, and you have decreased piezoelectricity, you have a decreased ability to rehabilitate, to recover, because your body's using its energy for other things, for higher order systems. So you're trying to survive instead of actually repair and then thrive. So I understood that the fascia work through Chong maybe isn't the whole story when you were dealing with neurological symptoms or eye symptoms. I understood that, I got that. But if you have a damaged fascial network, you will not be able to recover the eyes and the brain as well as if you did not have a compromised fascia network. So this is why, as I said, people can have this collaborative effect where you have a neck injury and you also have a brain injury, and it incubates a very large problem, and you're trying all these different things, but not everything's working. So perhaps step one is just fixing the fascia connections to be able to disperse the energy throughout the body correctly. Piezoelectricity is very important, and it's a very important topic when we are talking about these neurological symptoms, and potentially this is why I got instant relief in my neurological symptoms, and my memory improved, etc. As I said, there are other things that go on with this. It's in this document. I'm happy to send it to you if you reach out to me, because it's just a list of the research that I've done personally. It's not medical advice, but from what I understand, it seems to bring all these topics together and put them in one place. But as I said, rehabilitating the connections is extremely important. And that moves me on to this next point. Viscoelasticity. So fascia has viscoelastic properties. Another big word that you might not have heard before. Visco means viscous. Think honey, you heat it up, it gets runny. And when it's cold, it kind of morphs. And elastic, you understand what elastic means. So essentially what this means is the fascia can morph. The fascia can morph, and you can add tension to the system, and you can change it to rehabilitate, the body. Water break. So viscoelasticity means you can change the fascia to rehabilitate it and change it the way you want it to make it stronger, and this is where remodeling comes from. So we talk about remodeling the fascia. That's through this property. We can remodel the fascia. We can do this to create new connections, which is then my next topic, which is mainstream PT is potentially missing that fascia holds the muscles together, and fascia holds the skeletal system together. That's probably the most important thing to understand out of all this. If you've got instability, it's because the fascia system's damaged, and if you're going to focus on muscles, you're going to miss a component of this. Now, when we look at muscles have a beginning and an end point. They're in sections. You know, the calf muscle starts here and ends here. Your bicep starts here and ends here. But fascia doesn't. We've already talked about the fact that it goes throughout the entire body as one piece. So, in order to recreate stability, we need to do so through utilizing the properties and behaviors of fascia, which I'm outlining at the moment. Of course, these are only some of them. But to create connections across multiple bones, joints, ligaments, tendons, and create stability in movement and in stationary positions and throughout the whole body all of the time. So we can't do that if we're just focusing on muscle in mainstream PT. And as I said, Coach Chong's work is the only work that I'm aware of that can remodel the body and create connections. I'm aware that there are martial arts that do this, but I'm not super familiar on that, so I'm just going to talk about my experience and my understanding. And I knew that I was creating new connections through my body because my cervical curve improved, and my adhesion rate went down, and my tenderness went way down to 0, and I could feel that the fascia was reorganized. Like, it felt bumpy and horrible before, and now it feels smooth and a good tightness because it's using tensegrity. Created those new connections to hold my neck in place and bring this shoulder back up too. As I said, it was really dropped before. So creating new connections is super, super important. Okay. Another water break. It's hot here. It's about 30 degrees. It's the middle of the day, but I am in the shade. But it is quite warm. Hopefully you can hear the nice ambience of the water fountain next to me and also the sea, because it's quite a high tide. Alright, I digress. The Hyperarch mechanism. So, Chong's work is called Hyperarch fascia training. So why is it called this? So the Hyperarch mechanism, as I've talked about before, is something that he discovered in the foot that then allows the body to remodel, allows the fascia to remodel. So this is really important to actually, this is a mechanism that actually kicks off this process to improve the myofibroblasts, improve the piezoelectricity, improve the viscoelasticity, create connections, create stability, etc., etc. Remove adhesions and restructure and reorganize the fascia. The Hyperarch mechanism is what is helping doing this. Of course, with other things going on too, But this is the foundation of it. So if you see other fascia trainings that potentially might be copycats or in the interpreted work of Chong's, we all know what this means, we can read between the lines, they're missing the point of all of this. If you see exercises, and this is something else we're going to get into, about fascia training, potentially they could show some benefit. That's awesome. If it does for you, fantastic. But you're kind of missing the point. Like, this is all coming from this mechanism that kicks off all of these things. Otherwise, you would get the same benefits from doing mainstream PT or weightlifting, but you don't. Because if you've tried that and it hasn't worked, then you don't. I tried it, it didn't work for me, so I understand it doesn't. If it works for you, fantastic. I'm not going to argue. And this is where I get into our next point. Hyperarch fascia training is not just about exercises. It's not just an exercise program. Because otherwise, you would see the free exercises online, because there's plenty of them that you can try, and you would do the exercises and you'd heal yourself. Personally, speaking from experience, I did some of the exercises and got some benefits before working with Chong, but not exactly what I was hoping for. And then he explained me a couple things, which I'm going to talk to you about. And then I was like, that makes sense why. And then I got this amazing improvement over 12 weeks and resolved my issue. So it's not just about exercises. It's specifically also about how you do the exercises. And no matter what people say, only the members, only the clients of people that buy the program actually get taught how to do this. Because this is a discovery. This is very unique work. So it's not just about the exercise, otherwise everyone could go and do the exercise and get fixed. There's another reason why it's not just about the exercises, but I'll talk about that in a second. I know I've just stressed the importance of the fact that it's not about exercises or the number of exercises. However, I do just want to enforce the fact that what you see on the social channels and what is publicly available to you is not the limit as to what could be in your program. The number of exercises that were in my program was far greater than what you're going to see on the social media channels. How you do the exercises, the application of actually doing the exercises is insanely important. I can't stress that enough. So you can try the free work. On my Instagram, I've got a pinned post at the top. Hopefully it's still there, whatever year in the future you're watching this video. But essentially you can try the upper body exercises, you can try the lower body exercises, etc. The reason why it's also not about the exercises is because everyone has different needs. Like, everyone that's watching this is going to have gotten cervical instability from different things. Sports injury, whiplash in a car accident, head banging at a concert. I talked to a guy who had a ski mobile accident, Lyme disease. Like, there's all sorts of things that can happen, and there's all sorts of reason, EDS, that people can get this issue. So Coach Chong, and this is why it's a custom program specifically, is giving you exactly what you need for your condition. And this is my next point. This is an algorithm. The algorithm's in his brain. He's testing you, giving you things to do, collecting data, understanding how your body's responding, and then he knows what to prescribe you in what order, in what sequence. Sequencing is so important. You're hitting markers, and then you can move on and progress to the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. And this is how you progress through the program. So that's why not everyone's 12-week program is equal, because you've got your own body condition, somebody else has theirs, and you're going to respond differently over a different period of time. It's not linear for most people. At least it wasn't for me. You'll have milestone weeks. You'll have weeks where things improve differently. So again, individual differences is so important to understand, that one person's 12 weeks is not equal to somebody else's 12 weeks. So some people might resolve their issue in a very short space of time. Some people, it might take them the full 12 weeks. I don't know. But this is why it's an algorithm. Coach Chong is giving you exactly what you need, exactly in that moment of time. And this is why it's not a set program. You're not just buying a neck program. You're paying for one-on-one coaching over a 12-week period of time. It's custom to you. Every week you meet with Coach Chong for once a week on a Zoom call. He's giving you things to do. He's taking your data. He's analysing it. And then he's giving you homework, which is what you have to do across the course of the next week, before the next meeting. So you have daily requirements of what you have to do, and it changes every single day based on what you need in that moment to be able to kick off this metamorphosis of changing your body, again with the fibroblast and the piezoelectricity, the viscoelasticity, all the things that I've mentioned, specifically for you, because it's going to change from person to person, from moment to moment. So it's an algorithm. Coach Chong cannot be replaced. I don't care what content you see online. This is Hyperarch fascia training, and this is different. It's streamlined. It's a streamlined process that has been going on for well over a decade now. And of course, over that period of time, he's gotten better and better and better and quicker at making this process more streamlined for people and making it possible for them to heal. Another water break. I'm going to also check and see if we're still filming. "46 minutes. We're still rolling. Alright. Let's talk about the price. It's not cheap, but it's a no-brainer. If you've tried everything and it hasn't worked, and you understand this content, and this seems to be the missing piece for you, it's a no-brainer. It's putting a price on your health. It's putting a price on your life. For me, that's what it was, at least. It was putting a price on my ability to live my life and be a functioning human being and actually be able to do the things I want to do. Be active. Actually live and have the ability to do normal things. This is the other thing. People are so impacted not able to do normal things, and that, it doesn't make sense. If you have all the answers in front of you, it's a no-brainer to put a price on your ability to live and then go and do it. At least it was for me. But hey, it's different for everyone. Okay. Just going back over my notes, seeing what I have and haven't talked about. I think I've covered everything. I'm going to do another series of videos where I'm going to discuss each of these topics, but expand more on them. And I think that's important so that you can then, you might be like, I want to learn more about this piezoelectric thing. I want to learn more about myofibroblasts and do that. Also, I believe Coach Chong is going to do a video on cervical instability from his point of view and his research to get you to understand it more. But I thought, hey, you want to hear it from the horse's mouth first, the person that's done the program and has been successful, one of one. And I'll toot my own horn a little bit here. I'm an innovator. Actually, this is a good time to discuss the last topic, which is the disclaimer. And the disclaimer is that I've gone around some cervical instability groups, you might have even seen me post, and I have shared with people my experience, and I've copped a lot of backlash, which on one hand is understandable. People are skeptical, that's fine, you haven't heard of this before. As I said, I'm the first person to have done it with a neck injury. But on the other hand, it rubs me the wrong way a little bit, because when I was in this position where I was unwell, it was like I want everything. Even if something is not going to help, I want to hear about everything. I want to discover and explore everything. And so when I'm providing people the opportunity to learn about something, not spend money, not get scammed, you don't have to invest anything. All it takes is your time to listen and learn and watch the videos and read. And if I'm providing that to people, at least have a look, at least consider, and even if you decide it's not right for you, that's fine. A little bit of a tangent, it might not be right for everyone. Everyone's different. You might have the assessment, and Chong might say, hey, look, maybe this isn't right for you yet. Maybe you need to create a bit of a base first. Here's some things you can do. Here's some free exercises to start to actually have the ability to do this program. If you are unable to do some exercise, some basic exercise, then you're not able to do the program. Simple as that, because it's a rehabilitation program. Of course, there's other things mixed in with it, which actually I haven't talked about, so perhaps I'll quickly cover that now. There are other things. All sorts of considerations in all facets of life are covered in this program. Specifically, quite a large focus on the recovery component, because the ability to improve throughout the program is, of course, determined on how well you can recover in between sessions. That's super important, so then you can get the most out of your sessions. Back to the disclaimer. So, I understand, if you don't understand how fascia works, this is not going to make any sense to you. If you don't understand how fascia works, these exercises are going to seem silly. I get that. That's why I've made this video. If you've gotten to this point, if you're listening to this, you should have a good understanding by now. And even if you see something and you're like, I don't understand how that works, you know it's linked back to one of these things, or maybe something that I haven't talked about, but you know that there's method behind the madness. It's part of this metamorphosis. It's part of this process. So, again, if you look at this and you go, this is silly, who is this going to help? You're kind of just displaying your level of understanding, and I recommend you go back and listen to this video again, and you go and research some more topics. But if you've made it this far, and you're like, this stuff makes sense, and you have some other concerns, I'm going to address them now too. So, another one of the concerns that I get is people saying, oh, you're just advertising his work, blah, 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 you're just working with him. If you did not see this video, if you do not see my posts in those groups, you would have no idea this existed. I am an innovator. Again, I'm going to toot my own horn here a little bit. I was one of one. There are more people that are doing the program now with cervical instability, and they have shown improvements in a very short space of time, which I can't comment on because that's their own journey. They can come on here and do a video with me maybe later on if they so choose, but I was the first one, but I'm not the last. There are other people that are doing it too. So, of course, I'm the first person, I'm the innovator. I brought this to Chong and said, hey, you fix other people's injuries, I think you can fix mine with my cervical instability. I think you can remodel a neck. And I was right. but I had to do the research first to understand how that all comes about. So of course, I would be selfish if I didn't share that with other people, and that's why I'm making this video. That's why I have an Instagram account. If you haven't looked at it already, it's called Oliver Jack James, no spaces, just Oliver Jack James. That's my name. That's where I'm sharing educational fascia content about mainly football health, but also about this stuff as well. Cervical instability, other injuries, football health, and performance, because I'm a football player myself, soccer player, for those Americans and Australians. So I would be selfish to be a world's first, be an innovator, and not share it with you guys. That would be selfish. So by all means, you can be skeptical, but at least be equally as curious. It takes innovation to actually resolve problems that other people can't fix. Coach Chong's work is innovative. He is an N of one. He is a one of one. There is nobody else like him. So he's resolving issues that other people can't. That's fantastic. I'm the first example, so I am sharing this with you guys so then you know this is an option. As I said, you're not going to get scammed because you don't have to spend any money to do the research. If you decide this might be right for you, you can book an assessment. It's 45 at this moment in time. It's $45 US to book an assessment. You can speak to Coach Chong. He's going to look at your body condition and he's going to say what he thinks. It's like when you go to the doctors and you have a consult. But of course, I would team up with Chong and help him bring this to the world and help people's issues. Of course, it makes no sense not to. I haven't got these written down, but I have had lots of different questions and concerns from people. I'm going to address another one. This is no cuts, by the way. This is off the cuff. This is raw, how I see it. Because I've had so many of these conversations that I may as well have put it together in one video. Finally, I get to get it all out. The other thing that people say is, what are his credentials? And do you know if he has a doctorate, does he have a bachelor's, whatever. I actually have no idea his credentials, because I haven't asked, because I don't give a shit. I don't care. I don't care what his credentials are. I see that he's getting results. I see that he's fixed people. He fixed me. So why would I care about a piece of paper? A lot of the doctors that you guys are going to have many pieces of paper from many different high-level universities, but if they can't fix your problem, is it worth it? You understand what I'm getting at? So I actually don't know. I don't know what his background is. Actually, I know he's got a background in computer science and programming, which is awesome for problem solving and collecting data and then using your brain as an algorithm. I know that much. But as far as exercise stuff goes, I actually don't know his background. However, I do know at this point of time, filming this video on July, I don't know my phone there, 22nd in 2023, he's away doing a fascia dissection in Colorado with Dr. Steckel, who co-wrote the newest fascia textbook, which was updated around 2021, 22, 23, somewhere in the last couple of years. The first one was posted in 2013, the most recent one was posted now. So he's there. He's getting his skin in the game. He's there. He's doing the fascia dissections. He's doing the research on the floor. So, yeah, when people ask me, like, what credentials he has, they potentially clearly have not been through this journey long enough to understand it's not about that. It's about results. You don't care as long as you're getting your issue fixed. And as I said, you can look at this all for free. Another water break. What other things have people had that rub them the wrong way? Okay, another thing. So, there have been other people that have had assessments and potentially haven't been happy with the answers they've been given. Maybe some people, their body condition is not right to start, so they've been told, hey, do some of these free exercises and then build a bit of a base, and then once you have a bit more capacity, then you can do the HFT program. And potentially, this is not the thing you can start now. Maybe you have to build up to it. Maybe some of the things that you see people doing, maybe even prolotherapy might get you to the point where you can actually are capable of doing the program. Potentially, that's the route for some people. Hey, it's not up to me. Everyone's different. So there you go. But one of the things that a person that had an assessment said was that he wasn't happy that Coach Chong was telling him to control some certain variables. For example, medication. There are some medications that can negatively affect fascia. What those ones are, I don't know. This is something you'd have to talk to Coach Chong about. So, when you're trying to rehabilitate yourself, you have to control all variables. You have to control as many variables as possible. And part of that is making sure you're not getting takeaways to all the hard work you're putting in, the program that you're doing. So if specific medications might negatively affect the fascia, that might be something you have to take into consideration before or when you do the program. It's not up to me, it's up to you to talk to your doctor and Coach Chong about that, whatever you decide. A more simplified version of this is saying, okay, so because fascia has viscoelasticity, it can be viscous, it can morph. One of the things that makes fascia more viscous and more sticky, which is not good, sticky is bad, creating adhesions, is lots of sugar. So if you were doing HFT, but you were eating a pound of gummy bears a day, you're just shooting yourself in the foot. So this is a variable we have to control. Okay, not too much sugar, because we don't want to affect all the hard work we're putting in. As far as questions and concerns go, I think I've addressed everything. If you understand everything that I've said, which you probably won't, because I've accumulated this over many years, and you might have to watch this video a few times, or you might have to do your own research, or you might have to watch the fascia crash course, which I linked at the start of this video, which takes you through all that, but in a bit of a different way. Then hopefully you might get to a point where you go, okay, this is for me, or this isn't, and that's perfectly fine. This is probably my closing statements. There'll be more content coming from me. If you're watching this after July of 2024, then there will certainly be more content coming from me. I have my Instagram, which you can reach out to me on at Oliver Jack James. I have my email, which I can put up here, which you can also send me an email if you don't have Instagram. And you can ask me questions, you can ask me to send you resources, whatever you're looking for. That's what I'm here for. I've teamed up with Coach Chong. Wow, that's a big wave. To bring this to the world, to help people who have issues and want to resolve them. If you have an issue, you want to resolve it, nothing else has helped, you understand that this might be beneficial for you, brilliant, I've done my job. Without you listening to me talk, you may not ever find out about this. This is the point of this video. You may not ever find out about this. That's the thing. I'm just trying to bring you a new solution. So, closing points. I think that's everything. I'll be making small videos on all the other topics. I've explained my process. I've explained my timeline. I've explained that I tried prolotherapy, dry needling, massage, all sorts of things. I'll be making videos on them and specifically how they are different to HFT and what HFT that's different to those things to create longer lasting results. I've talked about the disclaimers. I've talked about the price, how it's... Actually, no, I don't think I did talk about the price. The price is different for everyone based off everyone's needs. So on Chong's website, as it currently stands, there is the price. For group coaching, that's the thing that pops up. The price that you see is for group coaching. The one-on-one price is only given to you after assessment. Once Chong understands your issue, the complexity of it, and your body condition, can he only give you a price? Because everyone has different requirements. If someone's going to him to resolve an ankle injury, that's less complicated than rehabilitating a neck or a spine. So, of course, it makes sense that based on your condition and many other factors, that price is going to vary. Price is going to vary. I'm not going to share with you my price because what you pay might be less, it might be more, and other people might get funny about it, so I'm not going to share it. It's in the thousands. I'm going to say that much. It's in the thousands, and it's more than group coaching. So if you go on the website and you see the group coaching price, understand that one-on-one coaching is your custom program is more than group coaching, and that the price varies for every individual based on their needs. You understand the outlook of the 12-week program and how it runs now, and so I guess it's up to you. So my advice to you is, if you think you're ready for this, you can book an assessment, and then once you book the assessment and you do the assessment, you'll have some information from Chong based on what he's recognised with your body, and he'll also give you a price for you. And as I said, that will change, and that will be subject to change over many years based on simple things like supply and demand. And also, think about it this way. Okay, I'm not done talking. Surprise. Another drink break. Another check the phone to see if it's recording break. It is. We're over an hour now. This is one of the other things. If you're going to a physiotherapist once a week for the whole year, if your physio is only charging you $100 per appointment, which they're definitely not, they're charging more, for 1 year worth of physio is $5,200. $5,200 for 1 year of physio, and you're not guaranteed results. And if you're not seeing results after a year, you're probably going to wonder why you're still going to that person. Potentially. Might not be right for everyone. So, if, for example, that is the price that it costs to go to the physio, that's only looking at the muscles and is not looking at the fascia in this way for a year, and you haven't got those results, perhaps you want to try something else. This is where HFT comes in, because it's providing a solution to your problem that you have not been able to fix. So, as I said, the outlay of money may seem like a significant amount, but for me, it was just putting a price on my health again. So, cost varies depending on person to person. You have to acknowledge that other treatments are also very expensive, even if it's over a longer period of time, and that, yeah, everyone's different. Alright, I think that's it. So, just to recap, I've covered my journey overview, I've covered what I've tried, which I'll be doing more videos on later. I've covered cervical instability rationalised, the ligament, the vertebrae in the spine or any other part of the body, different bones, unstable. Was it being held together by fascia? Okay, what do we have to do? Remodel the fascia, create connections across multiple of them to create strength in the tensegrity network. Boom, we're good. While also eliminating adhesions. I've talked about how I researched it all and then discussed with Coach Chong. I did the program, got the results. Why Coach Chong's different to PT, we've analysed the myofibroblast, the piezoelectricity, the viscoelasticity, creating connections, Hyperarch mechanism. We've talked about how it's not just exercises, it's an algorithm that's streamlined, and how my experience showed that you can do some of the free exercises and get some benefit, but really the real magic is working through with Coach Chong, specifically for you. We've talked about the price, and we've talked about the disclaimers. I've given you my Instagram, I've given you my email. You can reach out to me, I'm easy to find, and I'll reply quickly. So, yeah, hopefully now we have a whole bunch more people that are able to fix this issue if other things for them haven't worked, or a whole bunch of people that are educated on this topic that might be able to tell somebody else. And yeah, hopefully this video blows up and we can help a whole bunch of people, because that is what's most important. And if you hadn't seen this video, potentially you never would have ever figured out that this is an option for you, and that is the most important thing. Thanks for listening.